What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am MLB Chatterbox, aka Christian Corey. You see the title and the thumbnail in today's video. I will be reacting to some comments that the Mariners president and CEO Kevin Mathers said on an interview with the Bellevue Breakfast Royalty Club, the BBRC. This is based out of Seattle. It's an interview he did a couple of weeks ago. This is before they signed Paxton. This is before Taijuan Walker went to the Mets. So he did this interview and he said some not so great comments. A lot of people are reacting to this. A lot of people are pretty ticked off. I will give you my reaction to it. And I'll tell you how I feel about it. I've seen clippets of it. So I'm going to be showing you what he said, and I'll give you my reaction and tell you how I feel about every little thing that he said that I felt was important and what people were talking about in the news this week. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys. So I've clipped this together to the important parts that I thought were important. And yeah, so let's take a look.
The Mariners, as bad as our year was financially in 2020, we were better than most. And I attribute that to luck. Better lucky than good. It was a low year. We were at the very bottom of our rebuild step back cycle. So our payroll was as low as it was going to get, thank goodness. And we also have a television deal with Root Sports, and we punch well above our weight on the television deal. We had 60 games, and we per game got a lot more than we probably deserved as compared to other similar sized markets. So,
and a lot of honesty in this interview. Now, honesty that probably was shocking to people, but a lot of honesty. That's what you got to understand with this interview. A lot of honesty and blatant honesty, but honesty. And then he says that we have this massive TV deal with Root Sports, which is a sports network based, in the Pacific Northwest. So he has this massive contract, and he's saying, well, we probably got lucky because we're probably not worth what we got, and we got really lucky with this contract. We're making a bunch of money off of this contract. Now, was that question asked? No. I mean, is it a good insight? Yeah, it's great insight. Is he being honest? Yes, he's being blatantly honest. Is that a bad thing to say? I mean, it's not offending anybody. He's being honest. I don't know how the next negotiation is going to go. I mean, he's being honest. The Mariners suck and we have a great TV contract. Why? I don't know. No one watches us. We're terrible. That's basically what he's trying to say.
Terrible year financially, but we
Facts.
did better than most of the other professional sports teams. When we decided to play 60 games, every team was allowed 60 players to bring to summer camp. We made the decision to invite 15 prospects. Our top prospects were all in Tacoma. We brought 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who never would have seen T-Mobile Park or...
All right, so what he's saying here is that people made it sound like that, these young guys would never see T-Mobile Park. They're terrible. They suck. That's the way people interpret it because they didn't hear what he said in the beginning. He said, because of COVID, we had a taxi squad. We got to bring, whatever he said, 15 to 20 guys to the taxi squad, and they're all young guys, all teenagers, early 20s, guys who in a regular season probably would not have seen T-Mobile Park. That's not bad. That's facts. He's not dissing anybody. It's facts.
Cheney Stadium, if not for COVID. We took a risk and brought kids in, our high-end prospects, and really got to know them. They got high-end instruction in Tacoma. The risk was...
So first of all, before he gets to the risk, he talks about what the risk was of bringing these guys up, these young guys up who are inexperienced and probably would never have been close to T-Mobile Park because they're just so young and so underdeveloped and still developing. The fact that they were brought up, they got high-end instruction from probably major league caliber coaching and instruction. So that's a positive. He's being positive here. Then he goes into saying what the negative effect could have been if we had all these young guys in the taxi squad who are inexperienced. If it happened, this is what he says.
The risk was if our major league team had a COVID outbreak,
which the Marlins did, Cardinals did last year, COVID outbreak, very real, very big possibility.
or injuries, and we had to call people up from the taxi squad, we were a little short on players because there was no chance you were going to see these young players at T-Mobile Park.
That's honest. That's being honest. He's being blatantly honest. I like it. It's facts. I mean, you probably never saw him if it wasn't for COVID. That's not a diss. It's just being honest. I don't see what's wrong with that. Now, here's a question that arose from one of the reporters or the guys who were in the chat. And the question was, what are the chances that they could see James Paxton or Taijuan Walker back in a Seattle Mariners uniform? Because they're both free agents. Again, this was before Taijuan Walker went to New York and before James Paxton eventually signed back with the Mariners. So this is what he said.
What are the odds we see Paxton or Walker?
It's a good question. Paxton has surprisingly not signed, and we have taken the position that there are 180 free agents still out there on.
Which everybody knows that's true. The free agent market honestly does not move at all. That's why in my last video I said there should be a deadline. It helped move faster. Now he's saying there's 100 and something free agents still out there that we could possibly sign on a good deal. It's facts. Again, he's being honest. It's not bad, but this is what ticks people off.
February 5th unsigned, and sooner or later these players are going to turn their hat over and come with hat in hand looking for a contract. We think Walker is one of them. James Paxton made $12.5 million last year.
Okay, so what he's saying is that all these guys who are free agents that are still out there when spring training starts and maybe even the season starts, that they'll be looking for a contract and they will go to the Mariners. And what he's saying is that some players who may be, major league caliber players who are kind of, in that C-level range of talent that are still pretty good, but you can get them on a cheap deal, probably will be so worried and they want a contract that they wouldn't care who to sign with. It wouldn't matter to them if they signed with the Mariners, who just are terrible, and the Mariners could get them on a good deal because in a way they're desperate, and sometimes that's okay. The teams have to have some leverage in this stuff. This is negotiations. That's how it works. Both sides have to be happy, and sometimes one side's happier than the other. That's the way it goes. That's how you play the game. Let's proceed.
And his agent has told us that he's going to make more in 2021. Interestingly, we started a conversation with Paxton.
Okay, so what he's saying, talking about Paxton, is that his agent said that he'd make $12 million or more than what he did last season with the Yankees, which was, I think he said $12 million. And he said, interestingly enough, we were in contract negotiations with him. And what did Paxton sign with the Mariners? A one-year deal worth $8.5 million. What's wrong with that? Got him on a good deal. The guy agreed to it. That's not bad. And then he talks about Taijuan Walker, which he was wrong.
Yesterday, and it is for substantially less. Walker thinks he's going to get a 3-year deal. I don't think he's going to get a 3-year deal.
He says Walker wants a 3-year deal. He does not think he's going to get a 3-year deal. Well, he just got a 3-year deal with the Mets. Honestly, probably one of the only teams that would have gave him a 3-year deal because the Mets had the money and they don't care what they spend. Team like the Mariners, low market, they're trying to be economical here. Tigers were interested in Taijuan Walker. I wanted the Tigers to get him, but there's no way in heck that a team like the Tigers or the Mariners would have gave him a 3-year deal worth $23 million. There's no way, guaranteed. There's no way a team like the Mariners or the Tigers, any low market team for that matter, a team like the Rays or the Athletics, would have gave him that type of deal that the Mets gave him, because the Mets don't care what they spend. They just want to win. They don't care. All right, so this one guy asked him, was there any positive leadership stories that came out of the year from 2020? And he told him a story, but I wouldn't say it was positive. This is where we kind of get iffy here. I mean, it was hilarious, it was funny, but was it really necessary to tell this story?
Marco Gonzalez has really taken a leadership role. Good story. In 2019, we had a veteran pitcher that we have since traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, if you want to figure out who it is.
That pitcher was Mike Leake, by the way. They traded him to the D-backs back in 2019, if you weren't aware already.
Attitude, he'd been around, he'd been there, done that, and our bullpen coach was talking to the starting pitchers and he was talking about, when you go out and throw your bullpens, it's only 20 pitches. Let's make sure it's quality. And he was giving this speech. and the pitcher who's no longer with us,
Mike Leake,
kind of rolled his eyes and said, "Don't tell me how to throw my bullpens yet." And as the meeting broke up, Marco Gonzalez, with the help of a couple of bullpen guys, pushed this particular pitcher into the locker and said, "Listen, if you want to be a dick, but be a dick quietly." And for a young kid to do that, good for him. Good for him.
Funny. It's a funny story.
He's really taken it's hard for a pitcher.
And that was supposed to be like Gonzalez, having leadership skills, shoving a guy in a locker. The story's hilarious. Was it necessary? No. Was it a story? Yes. Was it positive? Not really. For the most part, up to this point, it's just been honestly shocking of how blunt this guy was. And then he talks about Kyle Seager, and he talks about how he's got to compliment him, and then he's going to proceed to diss him and basically say the guy's overpaid. It's just, let's take a look, and I'll tell you.
Is a veteran player. He's probably overpaid. But his attitude, this has been a tough couple of years where we traded veterans and came in with young kids who are learning. And Kyle Seager has stayed positive and has had a tremendous attitude. That's why I whispered in his ear that he's going to be a Mariner Hall of Famer, because it's got to be some tough years for him. But he's been positive, he's been upbeat, and it's really been fun to watch him grow.
Basically, he says that I gotta commend Kyle Seager for sticking with the Mariners. Although he's terribly overpaid, I think he's a Hall of Famer. So, there's so many wrong things in that comment. He's being blatantly honest, but in just the most bizarre way you could.
Tell us about Julio Rodriguez.
Alright, here's Julio Rodriguez. This is gonna be good.
Julio Rodriguez has got a personality bigger than all of you combined.
Alright, first of all, the first part's funny. Like, that part, what he just said. A bigger personality than all of you combined. Like, that is... What a burn that is. He proceeded to just burn the interviewees, and then he burns the guy he's speaking of, and saying the guy can't speak English. I'm like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, come on.
What do clubs or baseball in general do to help these players learn English if they don't already know it?
Some clubs are better than others. 20 years ago, we'd sign a 16-year-old kid in the Dominican. We'd send him to a dumpy old academy with no hot water and a lousy rock-filled field. And then when he was 18 or 19, we'd send him to Peoria, Arizona, and put him up at the Hampton Inn.
Back then, it was true. They didn't treat the players that they do now. That is true. Is that bad to say? No, he's being honest. But now he's saying now we treat our players better, and that's a good thing. That's what he's about to say.
And give him $30 a day. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know how to make change.
All right, that part's bad. When he says that he doesn't even know how to make change, that's all right. He didn't really have to mention that. That's just kind of like, dude, really? You really had to say that? That's uncalled for.
$30 a day for per diem, and surprise, they'd get in trouble because they wouldn't know how to speak the language.
And then he says they get in trouble because they wouldn't know how to speak the language, because they would give the wrong change, or would not know how to buy dinner. And then that's really uncalled for. The whole thing's uncalled for. Dude, tell the story, and then that's it. You're done.
Or how to make change or even buy a dinner. That's all changed. We have an academy.
Then he says it's all changed, which is a good thing, but you have to say it like that. Like, oh, they know how to do anything. They're dumb. What are you doing?
Dominican now, our Venezuelan and Dominican kids are there for several years, 11 months of the year. English is taught. English classes are mandatory. High school diplomas are mandatory.
And then he says nowadays they teach them how to speak English. They got to have a high school diploma to play, which is all good things. You're educating the guys on both language and general education, which is great. That's a good thing. I don't know what's bad about that.
And life skills. Here's a dollar bill. Here's a quarter. Here's a $5 bill. Here's how it works.
And it teaches them life skills, how to make change, like I said before. This is how you make change. This is how you make change for a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20. Honestly, they don't teach you that in school. And they're saying they offer that in these minor league lower levels of the when they draft international free agents, which is great. I think that's a great thing. And he's being positive about it. I mean, the beginning was bad, but then he kind of fixed it, but then you still remember the beginning, so I don't really know.
Really critically important, as much as their skills as a pitcher or a hitter or a shortstop, critically important skills so they can survive and thrive.
And he says those skills of learning how to do life and buy things and learn how to make change and speak English and communicate are critically important. And you want that as a player. You want to be taught. And he gave the honest truth of what it was like. And I don't think it's bad. I just think he's being honest. Again, honesty.
Thrive in the United States, which is what we're ultimately hoping they do.
And then he talks about rehiring Iwakuma to be their international scout, their Far East scout. And he talks about that a little bit and his interpreter, and this was just uncalled for as well.
Iwakuma was a pitcher for us for a number of years. Wonderful human being. His English is terrible. He wanted to get back in.
And then he says his English is terrible, which, again, uncalled for.
We quite frankly want him as our Asian scout.
So your English is terrible, buddy, but we want you as your Asian scout because you can fluently speak the native language that you were born into. Again, why are you telling everybody you suck at English? Like, that's mean. That's just not right. Like, what the hell?
And I made the statement, I'm tired of paying his interpreter. Because when he was a player, we pay Iwakuma X, but we also had to pay $75,000 a year to have an interpreter with him. His English suddenly got better. His English got better when we told.
All right, so then he says, well, we had to pay his interpreter $75K, which sucked. And now we got rid of the interpreter, and Iwakuma's suddenly better at English. This is great. Well, dude, like, why would you say that? And why is that a good thing for you? Like, you're the Mariners. You hire this Asian scout, Iwakuma, to be your Asian scout or your Far East scout, whatever you want to call it. And you hire the guy to scout players from, I would assume, Japan or maybe Korea. If a guy can't communicate with you and tell you, yeah, you should sign this guy and sign that guy, if he can't communicate with you and tell you sign A, B, and C from Japan, what good does that do you? I mean, dude, like, come on, man. What are you doing, dude? Like, all right, so that's the end of the interview. So as you can tell, the beginning wasn't bad. But then once he talked about guys couldn't speak English and they didn't get along and Mike Leake, getting shoved in a locker and all that type of stuff, that's where it just gets dude. Like, honestly, you had to say all of that stuff. You have to go into that much detail to answer questions. And this was a 40-minute interview. Disgraceful at some parts. Some parts were fine, maybe a little bit overreacted, but I would suggest you watch this full interview. You can find it on YouTube. I'll leave the link in the description down below. Alrighty, guys, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'll catch you later.